We are just coming from the New Year for the trees, which there is a custom to eat from those trees and from this fruit. So here we have in front of us some of those fruit. The one which I recognize is the raisins, which is the grape. I see the date. What else is there? Is there a fig?
Yes.
Apricot,
Apricot.
mango.
Apricot is
No fig.
what is the black one?
No
I don't know if that's plums or cherries.
I think it's a fig, no?
No,
Yes.
no raisins. That's gotta be
Oh,
cherry.
is it a raisin?
Cherry.
Cherries.
Apricot, mango, zimukim, that's apricot.
Okay, so what
No,
we
that's
have is
apricots.
cake.
That's mango.
Let me,
That's what
before
I
we
said.
start, we're going to have a
I
crash
didn't
course.
Listen to Rabbi.
Before we start, we're going to have a crash course in the laws of blessing. Okay, before we start. Okay, you have to put it back now, I'm joking. Okay, so let me give you a few halachot, so we can be clear what we are doing here. Here. But first of all, let me read you the verse, the pasuk, which describes the land of Israel. And this is where we have these known 7 species. We are in the week of the Parsha of Itro, which comes after Beshalach. We are basically on our journey out of Egypt to the receiving of the Torah. When God told Moses that I'm about to take the Jews out of Egypt, he mentioned 4 different expressions, known as the 4 expressions of redemption. He said, V'otzeti, I'm going to take you out of Egypt. V'yitzalti, I will rescue you from the hand of Egypt. V'go'alti, I shall redeem you. V'lokachti, I'm going to take you to me as a nation. These are the 4 expressions which, corresponding to those 4 expressions, we actually drink. Our sages instituted 4 cups of wine every year at the Seder night, simply to celebrate those 4 different terms, known as Arba Leshonot Shel Geulah, 4 expressions of redemption. Following the 4th expression, there is a 5th one. Ve'veti etchem el haaretz, and I will bring you to the land. According to some, the cup of Elijah the prophet is also associated with that wish or promise that I'm going to take you into the land. Going into the land of Israel is and was a part of the Exodus from Egypt. Last week, we crossed the sea. We sang after the crossing of the sea. What was the words among the many other words that we said? Was Tevi'eimoi, Tesito'eimoi, Behar Nachalascha, Mochoin Neshiftecha Pa'alto Hashem. That I will bring you and plant you in the holy land of your heritage, talking about Israel and the sanctuary. And obviously this week, which is Parshat Itro, talks about the giving of the Torah. So we know that in the Torah, it's very clear that there is instructions and information that wherever we start, ultimately the completion of all the mitzvot is really going to happen when we are all in Eretz Yisrael. The fact that we are here and we are still able to do some of the mitzvot is a blessing. But the shleimut, the completion of them, is really when all Jews are together on the same land, the Holy Land of Israel. One of the descriptions about the Holy Land of Israel is later in the book of Deuteronomy, when the verse says as follows, and I'm just going to read and translate. Ki Hashem Elokecha meviacha el eretz tova. Hashem, your God, is bringing you to a good land. Tova, tov means good. Eretz nachalei mayim ayanot utehomot yotzim babika ubahar. The verse goes on and describes it as a land which has streams of water, springs and underground water coming forward in valley and mountain. Yafet. And then it talks about what is land blessed with. Eretz, a land, chita useora, wheat and barley, vegefen uteina, grapes and figs, verimon and pomegranate, eretz zeit shemen udvash, a land which has oil of olives, or oil of olives, and dvash and date honey. Okay, so now we know that Israel is blessed, maybe with oranges too, and maybe with papaya also, but which it's mainly blessed with is not the kiwi and not the apples that was left for Washington, but the land of Israel was blessed is the 7 species of wheat, barley, grape, figs, pomegranates, olives, and honey. And when it comes to today's day, the 15th of Shvat, which the 15th of Shvat is literally a day of the calendar, which is referred to by our sages as the New Year for trees, specifically in the regard, in the area of Maaser, tithing. As we learn in the Torah, there is a 7-year cycle of different types of tithing, the 10% that the owner of a field, some years it goes to the poor, some years it goes to the Levites. So in order to know things which grew on your tree, which belongs to year A or year B or year C or year 1, 2, 3, because every year has this different distribution and purpose of this maaser, of this tent. So we have to set up a date. Everything which grew before that year belongs to last year's maaser. Everything which grew after that day goes to next year's maaser. That date was set up as the 15th of Shvat. This is the time in the season when most of the rain in Israel already had come down and the earth begins to sprout. In such a day, our sages further instituted that we should eat some of the fruits that Israel is blessed with, meaning the symbolic fruits that Israel is associated with, and have in mind that Israel should be blessed with all this needed fruit. And therefore we have on the table over here cake, which is made of wheat. I don't think you would like a barley cake. You might enjoy a barley soup, but that's going to be another time. We have over here wine, because wine comes from grapes. We have raisins, which comes from grapes. We have dates. Then we have some other good stuff, just to make it look good. So what does Jewish laws tell us when you have these 3 different types of dishes? What is the order of blessing? So it's important to know that the order of blessing goes actually according to the order of the verse. So if wheat is mentioned before grapes or before wine, we're going to make first a blessing on the wheat and then on the wine. Fruit, since grapes are before dates, so we're going to have a blessing on the grape before the date, or a date before, or figs before pomegranate, etc. You want to ask a question, Ken?
הצימוקים נחשב כגרייפ?
Right?
אני מתכוון, נחשב
ענבים.
כמו grapes. Grapes became dry.
זהו,
That's what a raisin is.
הברכה אחרי.
Yeah, על העץ לא פרי עץ, yes. Now, what happens if you want to drink oil? What blessing do you make on oil? Shakol. Why?
Like water.
Looks like water.
Liquid.
Why looks like water? That's because it's liquid.
Be the same as you make on olives.
So really, when you have oil, hello, make yourself at home. Here,
Hey, Rabbi.
there's chairs here. There's a chair here.
How are you?
When there is oil that you drink for health reasons, And oil itself, you make a boire prio eight. If you drink oil for health reasons,
Oh,
olive oil,
fish oil.
yeah, you make a boire prio eight. Even if it's mixed with other things, which is to improve the oil. You don't want to just drink oil, so you put it on the face, some other addition. It's okay. He says lemon juice. So still, if you drink, but your main idea is to drink the oil, because you want to have oil. Oil itself is not healthy, according to the Talmud. Just to drink a cup of oil, not good. But sometimes you have to drink oil for the sake of health. So you make a boire prio eight. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open the wine. Let somebody who's a good wine opener. Here. Somebody wants to volunteer to open the wine? Let's fill up a cup of wine for everybody. Let's have something to eat. We're going to make 3 different blessings. Pass around the cookies, please. Everybody can make a boil in the side. David, want to pick up, pass around the cookies. If anybody wants a cookie, pass it around so we can make a boil in the side. Yeah. Oh, that's not fun. Come on,
Rabbi, is the cake barf?
the cake is bar. Everything is bar. Here, give some wine to everybody.
Against my religion.
Good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Wonderful to see you, Rabbi.
It's against your religion to be sweet, I don't.
I'm naturally sweet.
You don't need a
Here, pass it around. Everybody else wants here. Ladies, pass around the cake. Here, there's wine over here. Pass around some wine, everybody. Yes, let me show up. Here, take put it down, please. Okay. We're now going to make a blessing on the cake first. Here, take some brownies over here. You have?
I didn't know we were doing it together.
Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei mezonot.
Who is the man here? Come on.
Now I'm going to make a gofen, drink a little wine at the same time. Here, a little wine to Yitzchak.
No wine?
Ben Yitzchak. Ben Yitzchak. Ben Yitzchak.
Arnold?
Yitzchak
David
ben
needs
Avraham.
Yitzchak ben Avraham.
We need
No, he needs.
Oh, you need to?
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagofen. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. As we do Mishpat everybody, l'chaim. Hashem should bless all our fruits and all our wheat and all our barley. Should have good matzah for Pesach and a nice etrog for Sukkot. And good blintzas for Shavuot.
So you said charcoal for olive oil.
Borei pri ha'etz, I said.
Oh, excuse me.
Are you drinking olive oil?
No, but I use it. For,
So
How
take
about-
first from the raisins, then you can take from everything else. Yes, just take a few raisins with you. We're gonna make a boire prio eight, and then have a date also.
okay.
And this blessing of Ha'etz will cover everything which is on that platter growing on a tree. So we're not going to have to make any more blessings.
Oh, right.
after.
And
No.
we don't have Adamai. This is it. Where? What do you see Adamai? Oh, the seeds. Oh, you eat it, big Adamai. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri
About the beracha, Rabbi, for a mushroom.
Yaakov,
You know, I don't,
Hey, sweetie.
a mushroom doesn't grow
I don't do this.
on any roots.
Right.
Because it doesn't
I
grow,
take my cherry and like
so
this.
you make it like on water and you go, here, come and see. Enjoy the 7 fishes. Start, yeah. Very good.
Roll your show.
Not gonna be ready, don't worry.
Is the pumpkin seeds Adama?
Who is it growing?
In the ground.
Then you make
Is
another
borate, so is it a pre because it's not the fruit, it's the seed? How do you bless?
tree.
No, but how do you bless it? Do you say borate pre Adama?
Yes.
Did you want
The breast?
Cake. Make a mezonot first. Take a brownie. Good for you.
to? Yes. That's it.
Those are just regular brownies, by
I
the
was
way.
gonna say,
They're not enhanced, are they, Rabbi?
Huh?
They're not enhanced with the plant that Hashem put on the earth called marijuana.
Oh, you mean that brownie?
That brownie.
If you're gonna celebrate the 7 species of Washington State, you're gonna eat those brownies.
How you doing?
Chaim,
Nobody else called it, but I did.
Two types.
Maybe you not only sell it, but you go out and cut it in the
the
summertime.
raisins
Oh,
first.
yeah, I'm in the yard here as well.
Is the
That's what I
dates, the
said.
dates
Yeah.
and the raisins the same?
We also grow it, like.
Stop with the
Is this next?
same lesson.
Hi,
Start with
how are
the
you? I'm sorry,
same lesson, but start with the razor.
you start with the,
Great, the first
I
one
know
before.
what to do.
Do I say
for
For this seed,
You don't eat that
Oh, you don't have
I
to.
could, some people could.
seed. Wow, that's not good for you.
before just gave me a whole container of raisins, wasn't it nice?
How about an apple? Pineapple, peach,
Sorry, I
seed.
was
None
It's
of
part of
that.
I
that.
had dinner there.
That's the same with the pumpkin, the seed's
It's
part of the
spelled
pumpkin.
bread.
But
Help yourself, everything goes.
the seed of an apple, you're eating it as a side product.
Okay, while you're all eating and gnashing and everything else, I'm gonna start and teach a little bit
Oh, they're delicious.
of a class
I don't eat this.
Have you ever tried it?
about the 7 species.
I cannot.
We just read in the Torah
Good for your
that there are 7 species that the land of Israel is praised with: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. Basically, in the world of vegetation, this is like the 7 species are like the crown of all vegetation. Torah also teaches us that the tree of the field is the person himself. What we are going to do tonight is discuss some of our insights into the 7 species, but from a personal perspective, meaning how the 7 species is being found and how we can relate to the 7 species in our own personal life. The wheat within us, the fig within us, the pomegranate within us. This is the topic of tonight's class, which hopefully will be done by 8:30. But before we start, I would like to mention a very important concept that you should always look for when people try to personalize different ideas, including Torah ideas. Obviously, you can find the relationship of many things mentioned in the Torah with you personally. But at the same time, it makes much more sense when we see that the Torah itself refers to us with titles and names which are representing those items. In other words, if you want to talk about what is my relationship to the fig, to the teina, is one thing, you can look at a fig, and you can meditate about a fig, and you can learn about a fig, and you can decide, how do I find something of the fig within my life to improve my life? What lesson, what message do I carry by pretending that I'm a fig? But even more so it is when you see that the Torah, which means in Tanakh, God refers to us and He calls us figs. So when you are being called a fig, then it's much more encouraging and inspiring to see what can I learn from that fig, and what is that of the fig that is in my own life. So I'm going to just read for you 7 verses, which we see that every one of the 7 species is actually referred to us as a nation of people. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 3, we are called Reishit Tvuato, the first of God's grain. We are referred to as grain. The main staples of grain is wheat and barley. In Tehillim, chapter 80, King David refers to us about our exodus from Egypt, and he calls us Gefen Mimitzrayim Tasia. We traveled out of Egypt, or God caused us to travel out of Egypt. And who is us? He says, you're Geffen, you grapes, you travel out of Egypt. We are called Geffen, suddenly we are called, given the title grapes. In the book of Hosea, chapter 9, again the prophet refers to us, Kebikura beteina bereshita. You are like a ripe fig in its original stage, or in its original ripeness. Then you have pomegranate, Shir Hashirim. King Solomon calls us Shalchaich Pardes Rimonim. You are like an orchard of pomegranates. Jeremiah again calls us Zaid Ra'anan, Yefe Pri Toar, Kara Hashem Shimcha. God called your name a fresh olive, beautiful of shape. Here we are called olives. Again in Shir Hashirim, Zot komatech damta letamar. Your statue, your height, your structure is like a tree of dates or a palm tree. You read those verses, you realize something very clear. That everything which we just discussed as far as vegetation is actually something which we are titled with the very same name. In Hebrew, and in Torah in specific, we don't just throw, random types of titles or different types of what do you call it? I wouldn't say parables or scenarios which is related to us. The fact that we are called with those names and we are associated with dates or with vines or with limonim, therefore we must know and learn and say that these represent 7 elements of each and every one. And we have to find those elements within us. And when it comes to Bishvat, and we'll eat those 7 species, it is further an opportunity for us to connect to the 7 elements and to the 7 species which within us. So let's start with the first one, wheat and barley. When you think about wheat and barley, the Kabbalah teaches us that wheat and barley, these are the staples, right? Staples. Mana ikarit is wheat and barley. This is the first most important ingredient of every human being. And a human being is made of, as the Alter Rebbe discusses in Tanya, based on the verse Uneshamot ani asiti. God says, I made you out of two souls. Says Reb Chaim Vital, student of the Ari, that every person, lekol yesh bichad Yisrael, yesh tei neshamot, you have two souls, which are two energies. One is called nefesh habe'amit, one is called the animal soul, and the next one is called nefesh ha'elokit, the godly soul. The godly soul is the wheat, the animal soul is the barley. What is the connection between the godly soul and wheat and the animal soul and barley? So first of all, we have to understand what is the difference between the godly soul and the animal soul. Obviously, like I said, this is the foundation of this entire philosophy of Tanya, but we don't have to go into much detail, rather very simple. The godly soul is God-centered. It's not about me, it's about godliness. The godly soul looks on something, it doesn't see how am I going to benefit from it. The godly soul always thinks, so where is it coming from? What's the root? What's the source? What brought it into the world? Always looking into the makor, to the source. Behind yourself, transcending yourself. The animal soul is exactly the opposite. The animal soul is self-centered. How can I perfect myself? How can I fulfill my personal selfish desires? Everything which I come in contact with, I use my intellect, my emotions, my all attributes to see how can I bring this idea to benefit me. This is the animal soul. Like we learned the other day over here after morning davening, the Rabbi brings that a person has the privilege of walking upward, to give him a chance to look where he comes from. An animal is always with the head down, always sees what is needed for him or for you. How does that translate into wheat and barley? So here we find something interesting. First of all, that wheat, even from a halachic perspective, by the way, wheat is called feed for the human, versus barley is referred to as feed for the animal. I know that some people enjoy some barley bread and also barley soup, but still, in general, barley is feed for the animal. Actually, in the Torah, it is written clearly, "Ve'aseorim ve'ateven lasusim ve'larechesh." Barley and straw goes to the horses. This is the way the prophet refers to it. Seorim. Seorah. So we see that it's interesting. There's one offering which is brought by a person, specifically it talks about a woman who strayed away from the right path of being faithful to her husband. That's the one offering in the Torah called Minchat Seorim. She has to bring an offering, a meal offering made of barley. And Rashi brings from the Talmud, why barley? Why should the altar being offered such a poor offering of barley? So the Talmud responds by saying, this woman behaved like an animal, let her offering be the feed of an animal. היא עשתה מעשה בהמה, לכך קרבנה מאכל בהמה. This is what barley is. Barley is the opposite of wheat. Wheat is good for man, this is the staple of bread. When it comes to bread, King David says in Tehillim, Belechem levav enosh yisad. Bread sustains and supports the heart of a person. This is the most important staple to to which the Talmud makes a statement by saying that a child, in order for a child to be able to say the word Abba, it needs to have a taste of grain of wheat. Only when he has the kasha, the first cereal made out of wheat, then he's going to initiate some conversation. That's what the Talmud says. En hatinok yodea likro Abba ad sheyitam ta'am dagan. That a baby, a little baby cannot say the word Abba until it first has a taste of wheat grain. That's what you need to say, maybe to say Abba. Which is again, the fact that wheat is associated with a person's ability to speak also shows the connection of wheat to the godly soul. Because what is the power of speech? The Kabbalah says that what is the title of a person? A person is called medaber. A person is called the one who talks. Right? The speaking creature. What's so great about speaking?
Communication.
That benefits you, but to the point that that should be your ultimate title.
Praise God.
The Kabbalah says that the whole idea of speech is getting beyond yourself. Why do you need to speak? So somebody else can understand and you can share a message with somebody else. So maybe that's the event communication. The idea of communication means that you recognize the existence of another person. This is putting yourself on the side. Really, speech represents self-glorification. I need to speak so you can hear me. Who is you? If somebody also exists, and I want to communicate with them, that's where speech kicks in.
Praying to God.
Praying to God, but not only praying to God, speaking, in any case, speaking to another person, recognizing there is somebody else who exists besides me. That's when you talk. And that's why a person is called the speaking power, medaber. And this is what chita, wheat, makes a person speak. Like we just said before, gives you the ability to start speaking, is again further explaining how wheat is representing the nefesh elokit, the godly soul. What is something interesting? It says in the Zohar that in the names of the tribes, you have 12 tribes. Reuven, Shimon. You can imagine when you have 12 names, you could probably carry every letter of the alphabet. But with 12 kids, you probably have a chance to have a Nun and a Samach, right? And actually, if you count up the 12 tribes, you end up having almost every letter, with the exception of 2. Which 2 letters are not in the names of the 12 tribes? Ah? Tzaddik? You have a tzaddik. You know where you have a tzaddik? Ah? You have a tzaddik or not? Ah? Where is there a tzaddik?
So we're talking about letter, right? The
Letter.
tribe name is the Zavulon tribe. Start with
What?
letter Z.
No, that's a Zion, that's not
It's
a
a Zion,
Zion.
it's not a
Zion.
Zion.
That's not
In
Zion.
English, a Zion is
Ah,
TZ.
it's a TZ, oh, okay.
You have a tzaddik? No. No tzaddik. But they're all tzaddikim. What else don't you have? Ah? Chet. You don't have the letter Chet. True. And you don't have the letter Tet. That's the only 2 letters we don't have. Think about another letter. Just throw a letter. Any letter, no? Say a letter.
Bet.
Ah?
Bet.
Bet. Zvulun. Bet. Reuven. No. Another letter. Throw a letter.
אני מאמינה לך.
Just say a letter.
Lamed.
Ma'am,
Lamed. Levi.
ma'am.
Mem.
Menash.
No. Shimon. 3 more. Throw a letter. Dalet. God. Kuf.
Aleph.
What's with Kuf? Ah? No Kuf. No Kuf. Not a reason. Tell right there's no Kuf. Looks like that the last letters Tzadik and Kuf. Tzadik, Kuf, it says that, the Zohar says that Kuf is the letter which represents Klippa. The line going down there is getting into trouble.
Sama?
Yosef. Chet and Tet, says the Zohar, you're not going to find, why did Jacob not place a Chet and Tet in the names of the tribes? He said because the word Chet and Tet make up the word Chet, which in Hebrew Chet means sin. And he didn't want his kids to be associated with sin. But when you have a Chet and Tet, and you ended up sinning, what's your option? To repent. So what's the repentance? Repentance is the letter Hey, Teshuvah, Tashuv Hey. We always return the Hey, right? Repentance is by taking the Hey, the godliness which was sent into exile, and now you bring it back home. And that's what the word Chita is. Chet, which is sin, Hey, which is Shuvah. Because the power of Chita, the power of the godless soul is to take a person who ended up sinning and still bringing him back to the point of truth. So this is the recognition of the two staples, the wheat and the barley. Here is where we all start. Chita soil. Now we're going to move on to the grapes. What is grape? A person can have a godly soul, can have an animal soul. In order to overcome the animal soul, what is the first mandatory item which comes following the knowledge that you have on the neshama? How do you bring your neshama into revelation? You have to say l'chaim. Geffen. Geffen. What does Geffen mean? Geffen is the first pishi after the first two. Chita Sorah comes Geffen.
Okay.
Geffen, as the pasuk says in Shoftim, Tiroshi mesameach Elokim ve'anashim. Wine is something which brings joy. Wine is associated with joy. Joy is the power in our soul which represents revelation. A person who is hidden, or where you haven't died, you bring it out to the opening through wine. How does it say? Nichnas yain, yatsa sod. You drink wine, the secret comes out. What's the secret? I don't mean the secret. I mean the secret of our own soul.
Right.
So wine represents the revelation of the hidden secret. Wine represents the revelation of the inner hidden meaning and element which is within a person. That's why we say, Yain mesameach Elokim. It says in Kabbalah, Elokim is the name which is associated with nature. Nature covers, hides, to reveal the inner power which is beyond Elokim. That's what the wine is. You are megalet, right? Wine is revelation. And how does a person reveal anything? The power of revelation. You want to bring out the revelation of your neshama. This is grapes, wine, which wine represents simcha, joy. Joy is the power of revelation. Simcha. Ultimate, when a person, a Jew is happy. I remember the Rebbe saying it. In Hebrew, joy means sameach. Sameach. Sameach is spelled Shin Mem Ches. And a Jew is Yud. And I remember the Rebbe in Pastora one year said, 1985, I was standing there and he spoke very strongly how much important it is to be happy. And the Rebbe said, Sameach mit a Yud, meaning when a Jew is happy, this is Moshiach. It makes up the same letters. Shin Mem Chet Yud, Sameach Yud is Mashiach. Sometimes you think Mashiach is like this phenomenon which has to come, and happen. Sometimes, if you were able to have a moment of simcha, a moment of happiness, you had a moment of Mashiach. Mashiach was shining in you, in your presence. Mashiach was a part of your reality. Huh? So this is the first message which comes after the knowing that you have a neshama, you have wheat and you have barley, and you want to bring out the neshama to overcome your animal soul. You have to reveal it. The revelation of soul, of godliness, comes with simcha. That's why on Shabbos is a time of soul. That's the experience of Shabbos. How do we start Shabbos? We welcome Shabbos over a cup of wine. And wheat. Exactly. Wine and challah. That's the main ingredient of Shabbos. Yom Tov. Every time that we associate with neshama concept, we are bringing it together with wine. We name a baby. We just had a circumcision. What is a circumcision? The brit. The brit is the time that the neshama initiates his entrance into the body. We want to give it a name. What do? We make a name over a cup of wine. Then we officiate a wedding. Now we're bringing two souls together into one, which is again the next stage in the integration of souls. What do? The blessing over a cup of wine. Because wine represents revelation, and this is to express the revelation and the simcha. What simcha is that the power of soul which brings about revelation. A person who is happy is revealed. A person who is not happy is locked up in a metal box, in a basket. Remember, I had a foot of us once spoke about a basket. You know, a basket, like it's a thing which catches mice, I don't know, something. They gave a whole description. The way you get locked up that you can't move.
Mishalovka.
Whatever. What comes after the grave? We have four more species. Four more species to follow. Let's get something to eat. Come on, guys. There's good fruit over here. Ah.
Let's finish.
Can maybe one taker.
What do you want?
See? One taker.
Do some of each.
That's right, I already have mine too.
L'chaim.
Same.
You need seeds?
Yeah. We can grow them. We have the lights.
Okay, let's move on. We have four more to go. The clock is clicking.
Ticking.
So now we are moving to the fig.
Thank you.
What is fig? What is the fig representing? Oh, here comes something very interesting. To give a real experience to your neshama, it's not enough to say, L'chaim, I'm happy. You have to connect to something. You have to connect to something. Connection is symbolized by a fig. What is the connection between fig and connection? Why is it that connection and unity is related to a fig? So we know that
Goes through
Adam
transformation.
had sinned. Listen, the sin of Adam was the fact that he ate from the tree of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
What type of tree was it? Oh, so the Gemara says that he knows. The Gemara says if you want to know, you can see with the consequence of Adam, the consequences that Adam got after violating the sin of a tree of knowledge, then you can figure out what type of tree it was. What did God tell Adam to do after he discovered that he ate from the tree of knowledge? What was the consequences? First thing,
Get out.
cover himself. With what?
A fig leaf, you know.
Fig leaf. Very good. Says the Gemara, this tells you that the fig was the tree that he sinned. Because with the punishment, the consequence for his behavior is what he was, what is represented and reflect the tree that he ate from.
What's wrong with
I have a question about that, Rabbi.
What?
Did God tell him to do that?
Well,
Or
you covered.
his reality changed and he saw his body and they did it on their own?
We're not going to discuss the tree of knowledge, sin of the tree of knowledge now.
Okay.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that the Gemara, the Talmud clearly says that the tree, Rabbi Nehemiah teaches us that the tree that Adam sinned with was the tree of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
They ate from the tree of knowledge. What is knowledge? What is the tree of knowledge? So we all know, but it's explained, we discussed it a few times, in Chassidut, in Kabbalah. Knowledge means to connect. When you know something really good, you are connected to it. When the Torah wants to describe Adam being one and connect to his wife, the Torah says, and man knew Eve.
Right.
Ve'adam yada et Chava. Yada, that means connection. Chassidus and Kabbalah says that Adam's problem was that he wanted to connect to things that God put a block and he said, this is not for you to connect with. They have to remain separate. They have to be detached from your connection. But he went and he looked to embrace and connect to everything, and that was the downfall of Adam, the Itchabut. But what is Teina? Teina is that tree, what is called the tree of Dat, the tree of knowledge. What is knowledge? The Itchaber, which means very clear. Obviously, for Adam, the connection was a source which led of his, it was a destructive power, right? There was the downfall of Adam. But obviously there's also a constructive power into the connection. And this is when you are performing a mitzvah, or you learn Torah, or whether it's Shabbos, you can't just relate to it. You know, when I was a boy in camp, came a spectator. Everybody was going around, the spectator is coming. I came from Israel, a 15-year-old boy, and I asked, what's a spectator? Why don't we get nervous about the spectator?
Inspector.
No, dude,
He's saying spec-
there was an inspector, and there was a spectator. What's a spectator? A
One
guy
that
who is
watches.
watching. An inspector, you know, is an inspector. A spectator is the guy who watches without being an inspector, but somehow the information will get to the sources which we don't want it to get to, or that you do want it to get to.
An observer.
What is that?
An observer?
An observer, but I remember about learning, and then when we took it later into our discussions, so a teacher, we were having a class, and a boy was standing there by the class. He wasn't sitting down by the table. And the teacher told him, you are participating in class like a spectator.
What?
Instead of participating, you're just inspecting. And this is what the fig is. You're putting on tefillin. Identify with the tefillin. This is the fig. Hashem calls us figs because Hashem wants us to itchaber, which is das. It comes Shabbos, not thinking about, tomorrow is already after Shabbos, so Super Bowl is on Sunday, where we're going to be, and what's going to happen. Shabbos is not the day before Super Bowl.
Right.
Shabbos is Shabbos. And a class is a class. We sit today at classes and everybody's taking out their phones. Every minute, looking. What are you looking? You're looking for your next thing. There's no next. This is the fig. The fig is the ability to take the wheat, the godly soul, working on instructive, in a constructive manner, allowing us to connect to what we do. We finish with the fig, we are turning now to pomegranate. What is pomegranate?
Absent.
What is that?
No pomegranate.
No pomegranate. I had a pomegranate today. You should have come to my house. I will give you pomegranate. You keep dating it up before I had a chance to bring it in. What's a pomegranate? It's interesting that pomegranate is an expression which the Talmud uses for good deeds.
Good what?
Good deeds.
That's why on Rosh Hashanah we eat that pomegranate and some say a special prayer. What's the prayer? Yehi Ratzon Sheyirbe Zchuyatenu Karimon. That our merits and our good deeds should be as many as the seeds of a pomegranate.
Wow.
Pomegranate is on one hand the opposite of a fig. every seed is in its shell, on its own, separated. You can break them all into, count them down into small pieces. Some pomegranates, they counted up to 613 seeds. I guess there are special pomegranates which have the exact number of the commandment. If not, you have a wrong pomegranate.
Right in the back.
This represents a certain paradox into a pomegranate. It talks about a person which might be empty, but still full. Empty as far as his essence, but very full with a lot of good deeds. We all know people like this, which not necessarily they are connected entirely and they're activating their godly soul or involved in simcha, but they're volunteers, they're doing good deeds, community action. They're always practicing. And this is what the pomegranate seed represents. If you're not a fig, it's okay, so you're a pomegranate. It's also one of two mitzvahs. Yeah.
How does the pomegranate on the Kohen Gadol's robe fit into this whole thing?
It says actually, it says in the holy books that he was bringing into the Holy of Holiness, to the temple by walking with the pomegranate, he was bringing in people which are compared to pomegranate. Because a pomegranate can be a person who is also a Rasha. The Talmud actually makes a comment, translate a certain verse in Shir HaShirim, which praises the Jewish people that even when you are empty, you're a Rasha, you still, personality-wise, you're very far from being close to God. Nevertheless, every Jew is still filled with a lot of seeds of good deeds. That's what the pomegranate represents. Action.
You can make a wine from that.
Wine?
Yeah,
I wouldn't get drunk on that wine.
there is a pomegranate wine.
I understand, today you have all kinds of wine.
Got blackberry wine too.
Exactly.
Dandelion.
So action is good. Then comes the next one, next two. We spoke about the wheat, the barley, the grape, the pomegranate.
Come on.
Hold on. First comes the olive. The olive is the story of the struggle between the wheat and the barley. How does an olive produce? You take the olive, you give them a good crash. And as more that you squeeze and you crash and you put them under the press, this is how he releases his oil. And the truth is, but that's the way God created us. When He put us in a body with these wheat and barley elements, the godly soul and the animal soul, because He knows that dafka, necessarily by that presser called olive presser, we will do much better. We need the challenge of an animal soul to get the juice and the oil out of us. You can't just look and have oil drop. Shemen, chokhmah. You need to have the shemen and you have to have a kvetch. We know that the Alter Rebbe, when there was the first war, the big war between Napoleon and the Tsar, the Alter Rebbe was in favor of the Tsar. Even though he was convinced that Napoleon might physically provide better conditions for the Jews, but the Alter Rebbe says, I think we Jews need a kvetch. And the Tsar does it better for us. Matter of fact, when he was arrested in jail, when he walked out, and they asked him, so now you're going to officially, the old being in jail felt was questioning or challenging the fact that he's teaching the ideas of Hasidus to the masses. Of course, to be hidden, to tzaddikim nistarim, some hidden righteous people. So after being arrested for 53 days, they asked him, "You Rebbe, I'm going to stop now, you're going to calm down?" He said, "What are you talking about? You ever saw the olives coming out under the press? That's when the oil really starts coming. Now they really got me. Whatever you saw till now is only small to what we're going to do for now." to the point that even in the writings of the Alter Rebbe by Hasidim, they have the writings pre-Peterburg and post-Peterburg. Peterburg represented the city where he was arrested, St. Petersburg, and there is the very uplifted, but not in so much, in as much explanation and insight. And this is the pre-Peterburg writings. Then you have the post-Peterburg, dearie like real ports and give, look at the tail, this is the book that he really gets into because he was given that kvetch. And this is what the Aleph is. The Aleph is that the bitterness of the Aleph, like what happened when the bird came back to Noah's Ark, remember? What did she bring in the mouth?
An olive leaf.
An olive leaf. And Rashi says, why did she bring an olive leaf? An olive is bitter. Wanted to tell Noah, better have a hard-working, bitter way to get to your own, but gained parnasah, sustenance, than being provided with from others. Remember that message Rashi says in Chumash? And this is what the olive is. It's bitter. The olive leaf is bitter. The olive itself is also bitter. In order to get something of the olive, you have to kvetch. But that kvetch is what we are called to. We are referring to, like we said before, the pasuk who speaks about the Jewish people calls them Zayd Ra'anan, Yefei Pri Torah. You are the fresh olive, God says. Why are we olives? Get away the olives. No.
But isn't the olive branch the what you hold up to make peace?
Where did that come from? I don't know.
I don't know. That's the question.
It's a Greek.
I guess.
The Greek.
Greek mythology, yeah. Greek and Rome.
What comes after that? Here comes the interesting opposite of the Aleph. This is really the ultimate. Tamar. Tamar represents tranquility, menucha, household. Yes, it's very important to be pressed and to be motivated and challenged. That's what gets us going. But ultimately, a person has to reach balance. Balance is the most important. What is a tzaddik called in Tehillim? Tzaddik katamar ifrach. A tzaddik really grows like a tamar, like a date tree. In the Zohar Kadosh says, what is the relationship between a tzaddik and a tamar? What's the connection between the tzaddik and the date tree? So the Zohar says there are date trees which produce fruits once in 70 years. Wow. Yes? Once in 70 years.
70?
Shivim. There are date trees which produce fruits once in 70 years.
70. Wow.
70?
Yes. So the Zohar says that every
Every year or
person.
once?
Once.
In 70 years?
So the Zohar says that every person who has the 7 elements, the 7 attributes, which every one of those 7 also has subcategories of 10, right? Everyone is from Chokhmah to Malchut. So the Zohar says, Tzaddik Katamar Ifrach means that who is the real tzaddik? The one who came after he purified and he clarified all his 70 categories. The 7 attributes, the way each one is included from his own 10 subcategories, and that is the tzaddik. Meaning you reach complete balance. Menucha. Obviously, the ultimate menucha is going to be the Mashiach is going to come. Then it's going to be all good.
Is that why also it says your life will be 60 years and 10, which is 70?
3 what?
60 years and 10, 70.
It says in Tehillim, Yemei Shmotenu Bahem Shivim Shana, yes. Gvurot Shmonim Shana. But the general life is 70. This is really tranquility, balance. Sometimes when I look back, I'm thinking, I don't see that much. But when I grew up as a child, I used to go Shabbat afternoon, and this is in my imagination. But I remember going to my mother's parents to Mincha and Arvit Shabbat, and there was Sudah Shlishit. And then we used to go to Ma'ariv, a small synagogue next to my grandparents' lived. And had elderly people there sitting, like in the row next to the ark, with a stander like, what?
Walker.
Not a walker.
Yeah.
What's your
Podium.
prayer?
Like a small, not podium, like a lecture, whatever.
Lecture.
Lecture. So there was a lot of issue.
Maybe you stand on it.
And somehow those people at that time on Shabbat, after Mincha, before Arvit, that special time, Rabbi the Rabbi, they somehow projected such tranquility, such menucha. Not because they took a good nap, maybe took a good nap too. But somehow you looked at them, you felt they have it all. They have it all. They have the all balance. They are clear. They worked it out. Yeah, you can see the Shabbos resting on their faces.
That was no dream. You saw that? That was no dream. You saw that. You had to see it.
I say, they were sitting like this, their hands on the stander, leaning towards them, and joining the song, the melodies that we sing before Avit. Slowly, and you see, the whole world is like nothing. There's no world out there. This is it. It's fine. It's like we are in Gan Eden. Tamar is the type of balance, of tranquility, which is obviously coming after the Aleph, after the struggle that we all go through. So let's put it in summary. Sikum, number 1. Wheat and barley. What is the wheat and barley? What do they symbolize? The Nefesh HaEloki, the godly soul is the wheat, and Nefesh Bahamid, which is the animal soul. Then comes what after wheat and barley comes? Grapes. What is Geffen? Simcha. The first foundation, before you move anywhere to deal with anything, you have to establish the attribute and feel of Simcha, of joy. This is the foundation which brings all other elements into revelation. Then comes the fig versus the pomegranate. The fig represents the internal connection with what you do, da'at. At the same time, don't forget, always keep on doing good things. Don't wait until I can identify with what I'm doing. And I'm going to feel like this is really, I'm connected to this feeling, I'm going to put on a feeling. Or I'm going to feel that I'm really connected to Shabbat, I'm going to start praying. No. Keep on creating seeds, fill up the pomegranate, keep on going. And God willing, at the same time, not because you're doing, you're going to stop connecting. Look for that connection too. Knowledge, wisdom.
Understand.
This is understanding, this is the connection, this is the teina. Then following it comes Aleph versus date. Struggle, fight, overcome, be victorious, and tranquility. Don't just try to be. The fight itself is a game. The struggle is a part of the deal. You struggled. You wanted to look somewhere that you're not supposed to. When you saw, delete. I'm not doing it. That's a part of life. Even though I don't feel tranquil. I don't feel accomplished yet. I know in 5 minutes from now, I'm going to get the same challenge again. And I don't know if I'm going to overcome it then. I might be tired, I might be who knows what. Nevertheless, Aleph is a part of life. And the date is a part of life. God should help us. We should ultimately reach the tranquility and peace of the Tamar. Tzadika Tamar Yifrach. Be'amech kulam tzadikim. By the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, let it be speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen.
Now we have to make a last blessing after me. Now it's going to get complicated. What last blessing do you say? In one end, you have cake. Cake needs the last blessing called Alamichya. At least a 5 ounce wine, anybody?
Yes.
That's a lot of wine.
Ala gefen, al pre
5 ounces
gefen.
is not allowed.
Ala yes, al
Much
pre.
less than this cup. You have to make ala gefen. and then you also ate fruit. So we're going to make one blessing of all of them together. Want to hear? 1 second. I'm just finish up my wine. Chaim, l'chaim.
You just add each one, right?
Oh, let's do it together. Here, you can listen to me, and then so on.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready or not? We're doing it. Hold on. Okay, let's find you better. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al hamichya ve'al hakalkala ve'al hagefen ve'al pri hagefen ve'al ha'etz ve'al pri ha'etz ve'al tnuvat hasadeh ve'al eretz chemda toiva urechava sisa vein chalta la'aviseinu lechol mipiryo velizboya mituvo rachem no Adonai Eloheinu al Yisrael amecha ve'al Yerushalayim yirecha ve'al Tzion mishkan kvedecha ve'al mizbechecha ve'al eichalecha uvnei Yerushalayim ir HaKodesh yimeirov yomeinu ve'aleinu lesecha ושמחנו בו ולבורכך בקדושו ובטהרו כי אתה אדוני טוב ומיטיב לכל ונודה לך על הארץ ועל המחיה ועל פרי הגופן ועל הפירות ברוך אתה אדוני על הארץ ועל המחיה ועל פרי הגופן והפירות.
Amen.